My guest today has been on the show, I think, a couple of times before. If you want to see those episodes, go to YouTube, search Small Talk with Nancy Guitar, and then you put in his name, Robert James Koyich, Koych. It's as simple as that. Welcome to Small Talk.
People come from all walks of life. They all have lives they lead. Any and all are welcome here to come and chat with me.
Welcome to the show, everyone. And I want to welcome back my friend Robert James Koyich. Oops, I got to turn off my phone. I forgot to do that. Sorry about that. Oh, you know what it is? It's a reminder that I'm interviewing you.
Kind.
Okay, so now I know you're working on a book, which is your journal, right?
Yep,
And,
that's correct.
and you would post on Facebook the cover asking people's opinion, which I liked it. I don't know if you got any other responses, but I kind of liked it. Do you have that with you so you could show it?
I don't have a printed copy. I'm at the point of getting the cover created. I made that yesterday.
Right.
I'm also in the editing information page. I've done the Grammarly edits. They're like 4,500 mistakes. Crack, and then copying it over to a new file and then the formatting.
Right.
So probably in about a week and a half, it'll be available on Amazon, just in printed form, not on Kindle. But it's a book called A Year in Change, which is just my journal for 2021.
Okay, that's really cool. Now, one of the things we were talking about before I started recording is that your feelings about writing, about whether other people could write. What do you think?
Yeah. I absolutely think it. I think everybody in quotes should write a book. Everybody could have, doesn't have to be a monumental masterpiece, but I believe that everybody can gain significant self-awareness, understanding, clarifying your opinions, whether it be writing everything you want to say to just one person or anything you want to say to everybody, like just kind of a market message out to the world. It's a gratifying process. It's writing a book is not as difficult as people would think, but it is quite an accomplishment to complete. And it might snowball into other things. With my books, I started writing for the girl, the Natalie Imbruglia, fell for her, thought she was my soulmate, thought I'd start writing a book because if I shared the book with the world, she'd come and find me. But it went a long ways past that. It sprouted Providing Point, the giving group. We've talked about that before, the charity. It sprouted some ideas for housing, for caring for people. It developed more my ideas and understanding of myself and how and what and why I want to live on Earth. Not so much like discovering my purpose, but finding more my meaning and what matters to me. So I think people can gain a lot by writing a book. And even if it's just like, say, 30,000 words or 40,000 words, that's a small printed book. Like a book like this is, it's just a small book, but it's about 100 pages and that's only about 30,000 words.
Right. I must say that I have tried in the past to write a book and it's always still there. And I mean, this would be like a biography. It's not a fiction. And then it just sounded like I was whining and complaining. So then I thought, okay, maybe I could redo it in fiction form, but that just didn't work out. So I haven't gotten back to it. But the idea, I still love the idea. And I think it is cathartic when you can do it, especially if it's about your past. And, you know, like you said, sometimes you have to come to terms with certain things, right?
Yeah, that's the element of therapy, the processing of the past and accepting the past and remembering some of the stories and the other pieces and consciousness.
Yeah. Okay, so tell me about, let's get back to what you're working on now. Tell me about your journal. Like you said, it's like your day-to-day process of changing.
Yeah, I set huge audacious goals at the beginning of December, like December 31st, 2020. So like beginning of 2021. I shared the list of my goals. They were listed as opportunities at the beginning from a Grant Cardone webinar. We recommended what are all the opportunities? What could you succeed with this year? And so I wrote a list about like 25 different areas and then set 10x targets. Grant Cardone recommends setting 10 times think of a goal or objective or a metric and then add a 0. Okay. So like for 2021, I wanted to sell 250,000 books, irrational, audacious, foolish, but I sold 35, I think, total, which is kind, but not 250,000. But the element is that I had all these huge audacious wishes at the beginning of the year, and I came nowhere near achieving any of them. But I still had a fantastic year and developed and evolved and grew in many, many ways. And it's kind of showing some of, like, I had a couple, 3 or 4 out of 10 days. I give ratings for most of my days.
Yeah.
But I also had a few 8s, and I think I even had 1 or 2 9 out of 10 days that were just fantastic. And I shared what made those days fantastic in the book.
That's a really great idea.
And
like
it's also good for ourselves, where I say the self gain for writing a book, what we gain as authors or writers, because I don't even consider myself an author. I see that as like putting full-time effort into books. But it also gives me a chance to, when I went through the editing, I read through the entire year and like, oh, geez, that's what I was doing. That's where I was. Oh, I forgot about her. Like those type of things.
Yeah.
And it's a really beneficial process. So the book A Year and Change is the second one, and I wrote the 2020 the year before.
Right. You know, it's kind of interesting. I've read a number of people's books, like doing this show. Sometimes an author will send me a copy of their book, and it's what I find interesting. It's all interesting, but one person wrote it in prose and
Teresa.
Yeah, yes, exactly. Interesting way to write a book, and it captured my attention, right? I was just thinking about, like you said, writing a journal and a day-to-day process. That's another process where it's just like, okay, it's more cut and dry in a way. So it's easier to follow, or easier to you can close it for the day and pick it up the next day. Now you're starting with your day 2 or your day 5 or whatever it is, right? So it's really cool. I think that's awesome when people can come up with a different plan, a little bit of different plan, right?
And what you triggered me to remember is when people write their books is that it can be a wide variety. It could be fiction, it could be nonfiction, it could be memoir, talking about one's past or about one's hopes, goals, or dreams for the future. So their opinions on, like, say, theology or politics or religion or sex, anything they want to write about, they can write about. And that's the other key thing is, if any of your viewers take the course of starting and writing a book, it's just sit down on the computer, just type, like, say 100, 200 words. That's just what you did. Then the next day, write another few hundred words, and it just snowballs. It's like an accumulation of snow, a few snowflakes, and then you get the layer, then you make a snowball, then you throw the snowball at the world, and maybe somebody sticks.
I love that. I like that analogy. That's so cool. I'm just, and you know what, you just gave me this thought. Like, I used to belong to Toastmasters, and we had to give speeches, right? So we had to write our speech, and I could write a speech and be very, very, and I would memorize my speech, and I would be very good and straightforward. But if I had to just get up and speak, my thoughts would be all over the place, you know? So I thought maybe I could write a book in the form of speeches.
Yeah, and that's another way, the structure. Some people will write a book by having an outline.
Yeah.
If it's like an idea, or a self-help or a non-fiction book, just to say, in this chapter, I want to talk about this. In this chapter, I want to talk about this. And you can plot those little breadcrumbs and then follow the pathway. And there's so many different ways to write a book, and they're not all linear. Sometimes they're fragmented. Sometimes they're like a mind map. And at the same point, the process of producing something is pretty fantastic. And then saying, I have a book. And like,
and I think about, you know, when you say you wanted to sell 250,000 copies, like to me is, if you're gonna like dream in a way, dream big, it's free.
Yeah.
Why make the goals small when you could make them large?
Well, that's another. Grant Cardone is a major person to. If people don't know about Grant Cardone, I'd recommend they attend one of his webinars. It's very money focused sometimes, for sales and earnings and dollar signs, but some of the other stuff that he teaches is fantastic. And the concept of thinking 10 times bigger. Even Jack Canfield says that, you know, dreaming a big dream is just as easy as dreaming a small dream. He quoted it from somebody else.
Yeah.
But the concept is, if you set a goal, say, I want to run a kilometer, you run the kilometer. Okay, cool. You ran a kilometer. That's nice. But if you say I want to run 10K, or even another person that I follow online, they're running a 100-kilometer race this weekend, which is just ridiculous. But
yeah,
again, it also starts one step at a time, one paragraph at a time, to a chapter, to a book, and then in my case, to a series.
Yeah, that's cool. You know, it's interesting because I've been almost, somebody's talked to me in a condescending way one time and said, oh, you're such a dreamer. And it was reaction. Why not? Like, it's
yeah, I'd prefer to be optimistic, hopeful, and bright. Yeah.
And sometimes and often dreams do come true.
Yeah, and also some of those people that are critical, or they're saying that are critical of audacious people, or dreamers, or wishers, or hopeful people. It's also because they might have had their dreams shattered, so they feel like shit. So they'll make somebody else, sorry, it's cursed, but they'll make somebody else feel bad because they didn't achieve their dreams. And that's another thing that Grant talks about. Like, I think people should look up Grant Cardone and learn about some of his stuff.
Okay, right, for sure. You know, and people do those, what did they call them? Dream boards?
Yeah, vision board is what I've heard them called. But dream board, yeah.
You know, and one of my things that I had on my
That one.
Yeah, all right.
Over there.
Good joke. One of the things I had on mine was to have a talk show.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah. Well, here you are. Yeah. And you've been doing great with it. You've been really, really good with your talk show. Like multiple guests, like go, seat. I'm open. And
well, sometimes now I have other people suggesting people to me, which I love that because, you know, like you suggesting Teresa, right? So I love that because that gives me another contact. And I do a lot of musicians because I have a person who it's called Big Records. Her name is Pamela. And through her, she suggests, you know, would you like to interview so-and-so? And Bruno Christensen or somebody I just interviewed. And I say, yes, why not? You know, for me.
You doing that is providing amazing opportunities and platforms for other people.
Yeah.
The other key thing that I want to remind you of is that even though you're not getting like 1,000 or 2,000 or 3,000 views to this point, it's bit by bit, grain by grain, seed by seed. The other elements, like with you and your podcast or the interviews, I don't know if you call it a podcast, a show,
yeah.
But with your show, you have like now like 100, 200, 300 videos. And that's fantastic. Like you started, you kept at it and you keep going because you love doing it compared to thinking I have to do this or I need to do this or like thinking the big bank on things. It's fantastic. Like I love connecting and collaborating and communicating with people also. And so you've taken the step to meet and interact and connect with so many fantastic people. Like good choice.
And now
sorry for the judgmental opinion, but yeah, you're doing great.
And now getting subscribers for the first time, you know, so it's like, oh, like,
yeah,
cool, right?
Yeah.
I don't have groupies yet, but that's my next one.
I got a cat.
What's your cat's name?
My cat's name is Zeus. He's my prisoner. I'll make the joke about that because it seems like home is a comfy prison for him. But he's got food, a litter box. I give him treats, rarely catnip.
Yeah. I'm sure your cat is not complaining about anything.
He sometimes feels he sometimes seems like he's given up on life. Like, come on, cat, wake up, but like alive, get your teeth, claw, bite, do something, react, and he's just But I love him dearly. He's great.
Yeah, they do their own thing, and that's what I like about cats. They do their own thing, right? They train humans. So
housekeeping staff.
So now what are you working on in the near future, if anything? I mean, I can't imagine you're not.
If I was to choose 3 or 4 things, one of them I'm in. Gabby Bernstein is another online mentor that I've learned a lot from. She's a fantastic author. She wrote The Universe Has Your Back, Super Attractor, Judgment, Detox. She's spiritual, new age. Definitely a thought leader. She's a fantastic person. She's running a 21-day manifestation challenge. So I signed up for the challenge because I wanted to give buy one, get one free to another friend. Bought the program. In the program, that's part of the manifestation. So it's not quite working, but about working, trying to find, if today I see my sign, it means yes, release the job. So that's kind of reverence and sad about that, but also saw another post from another friend yesterday that says, when you go back to the bad ex for the 3rd time and think it'll be different, I kind of paralleled that with my job. So I don't know if it's going to the bad ex or not, or whether it is the support that I require. So that's something that's in my consciousness. Working on a year and change. My book, Winds to Change. I don't know where the printed copy is. Oh, here. This is a fountain book. So Winds to Change, the Fountains of Divinity. That one, I'm working for a March 5th release. I also put together all the tax receipts for the giving group, the charity. I sent those out yesterday. I have 1 address to get to mail, 3 to personally hand deliver, and also to write up mine. I've not written up my tax receipt, but that was a huge hurdle. And for my 3-month goals for April 1st is to finish Winds of Change, run a Goodreads giveaway, finish my personal and giving group taxes for the year, and also get the website done. The Providing Point website is one thing that I've been dragging my heels. I've been in process since November and I've not resolved it. I've been procrastinating. So that's something to resolve. Even though it's not major or significant, I like to have providingpoint.com ready and available. It's not ready yet.
Anyway, you always have something.
I'm not sure.
You always have something to go. And of course, I didn't remark on camera about your beard. If people, because you took off the beard and you look like, as I said before we started taping, you look like a totally different person. So I feel like I'm interviewing you for the first time. It's so much fun. Well, have we covered everything, Robert?
The only thing that I want to rewind why I mentioned Gabby is because you had commented that I'm like doing things.
Yeah.
One of Gabby's discusses kind of an archetype of the pusher or the doer, the person who thinks I need to do this, I need to do this, I gotta work, I gotta work, I go to work, the obsessive process. That could link with the Grant Cardone 10 times action, like put in 10 times the effort to get 10 times the result. But the other element is sometimes chill, calm, relax, like, you know, take the foot off the gas and just like coast for a bit. So I think in some ways I need to nestle into my home, remember to breathe, remember to center, remember to ground, put my wishes out to the universe, wait for my signs, and also just trust the process and enjoy the process. Like another Gabby Bernstein thing is one of the most important things in her viewpoint for manifesting a beautiful, fantastic life of your dreams is to enjoy the process and to be happy and to feel good. And I think one of her last statements is feeling good feels good. Oh. And my addition, it's also better for you.
Yeah, I like that. Feeling good feels good. I like that. I think that's yeah.
Feels nice.
So how about we end it on that note?
Sure, very well. Yep. Thank you.
Thanks, Robert. And thank you everybody for watching. And Robert is on Facebook if you want to check him out. And I mentioned, you didn't see this part, Robert, but I mentioned that you've been on the show and that they can see your other episodes on YouTube. They just have to search for Small Talk with Nancy Guitar and then put your name in.
Yeah, and then on Amazon also for the books, there's the plug. But
yeah, no, plugging is great. Plugging, no, for sure. This is what my show is about. If I can help you promote your whatever it is you're doing, I'm all for it, right?
You're providing. I like that. Thank you.
Say the name of your book again, and so that
I'd say start with Fragments of Intent just by searching Robert Koyich on Amazon. That's where the saga, the Fountains begins.
Great. Anyway, thanks again, Robert. Thank you everybody for watching, and take care and be safe, all those wonderful things, and peace out, everybody.
Love and luck, y'all. Be well. Thanks.
A sense of community, Chilliwack's a place to be. A sense of community where you're free. Rolling through the mountains, rolling through the valley, rolling through paradise with me. It's multicultural, you're sure to see it all. Chilliwack's the place to be, you'll see. Come party in the park, go dancing after dark. Chilliwack's the place to be, you'll see.